I don't know what the right way to think about this thing is and the right way to go through it. Most of the mistakes are I just ignore it because I'm in a spot and I'm like, it. You know what I mean? And I got to get rid of that it.
From a student perspective, compare Daniel, the Hall of Famer, the bracelets, all the poker skill and all the poker training at his starting point when you started coaching him versus Bill, who's played a lot of poker, who puts it in, who loves swinging it around and, has success with that every now and then, but comes at the game from a very, very different perspective. What's it like to coach those two extremes?
It's funny. That's actually an interesting question because Daniel was a bit harder to coach initially because he had all that success. He had, some bad habits and mistakes and a lot to make up for because he had so much knowledge in his head, right? Bill is more of an unmolded piece of clay. He didn't have as many mistakes because he didn't know very much. When I first met Perkins, I mean, quite literally, he might have been the biggest whale I've ever met, ever. And, had we done this 2 years ago, he'd be drawing dead. But now Perkins is his level of progress in the amount of time that we've had with him has been unreal. Now, Daniel's progress was incredibly impressive. Now, we governed Daniel. So I want to get this incredibly straight, right? Like we only gave him a few sizes to use. Out of all the sizes, we gave him 2. This is what you're focusing on because he didn't have much time to practice. Bill has a lot more time to practice. So we're starting him off with more sizes, with sharper and accurate sizes. So with Daniel, it was much harder. But as soon as Daniel started to master those 2 sizes, I mean, we opened the gate and said, okay, here's everything. Let's go. And then halfway through the match, Daniel really started to come into his own. He really started to understand concepts. Yeah, he made some mistakes, but come on, he's been playing heads up for 2 months at the time. Like, it's unreal for him to only lose 1.2 million to Doug in that amount of time. Yeah, there's a ton of variance, but that's not a lot of money. From where he started to where he is now, it's unreal. So what I would think with Perkins, I think Perkins is going to be slightly better prepared because he had more time. And I think throughout the time of the match, Perkins is going to accelerate at levels which people are going to underestimate. Absolutely.
Right. And then it's kind of baked into my version of how I'm going to be successful because God can only be God, right? So Landon's God. And I'm like, okay, you're not getting any better. Right? You're already, I'm the only one here that can get better, right? And keep getting better. And so, I've been also fortunate in other areas of my life, and at least for the month of May, I don't have that much going on. And I got night owls for coaches, right? They're available. So if I want to battle, we can get some battles. And we, I think we've played, how many hands have I played, so far?
With me or total?
Total, kind of you.
25K hands?
What's that?
25K hands.
So we played 25,000 hands, and, what percentage of those were significant spots that we've reviewed to the river?
60%?
Yeah.
70%?
Yeah. So, I mean, they built a platform and software, et cetera, that it's not sacrificing accuracy for speed, but it's basically a pre-solved method, and that we're able to go through, math is hard, 13,000 hands or whatever, right? 13,000 hands. That's a lot of freaking hands to the river that even if I didn't get it the first time, the second time, the third time, by the 10th time, it's starting to osmose into this brain and be part of muscle memory, right? So, the game is quick. There's timers, et cetera. I don't have time to go, well, I bet here, I'm here in my range. This is the fold frequency, blah, 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 whatever. A lot of that, we don't want to do shortcuts yet, but there's, I'm starting to get kind of just an intuition for all these heuristics, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not making big mistakes. I'm always going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes, right? Nobody's God. Landon's God in this scenario, right? So, but they're getting less, they're getting better, and they're getting less egregious. And I think it's down to most of my mistakes aren't learning mistakes. It's not like I don't know what the right way to think about this thing is and the right way to go through it. Most of the mistakes are I just ignore it because I'm in a spot and I'm like, it. You know what I mean? And I got to get rid of that